A very good day to you. This is my slot. Leaders are readers. And if you're a leader, you want to take that seriously because you want to go to the next level because of that discipline of reading, because you want to take yourself to the next level as a leader. This is your host, Doc Ant, and with me today, a very special guest, Stephen van Basten. Now, Stephen van Basten is a professional speaker on the platform on many topics. He's known for artificial intelligence lately that is really making people think as he's become a prompting engineer. So, Stephen, welcome to the show today.
Thank you. Nice to be back.
Awesome. So, what we want to do today is literally take people a step back in terms of where did you start? You know, obviously, you've written several books, 5 or 6 of them, and I would like to help the people to the first one where really you got engaging with other people. And I think the title was So Now You're Engaged, Now What? So can we start off with that book? Are you happy to do that?
Happy, happy, happy. Yes, sir. So here's the thing, when I was at school, I always had this fantasy about being an author. And I actually I attempted to write a couple of novels and a couple of books, but it just never happened. And then one day I went to a 2-day workshop with Jerry Robert. He's not South African, even though his name's Gerry Jeviet. And
Okay.
That was Jerry Robert, and American dude. And it was a 2-day workshop. And the first thing he asked was, why do you want to write a book? What is your mission? If you want to write a bestseller that makes you wealthy, chances are 1% you're going to get that right, because not everyone writes a bestseller. If you want to, one guy wrote a book, he wanted to get a job. Okay, so he wrote a book on the subject and sent it through before the interview. Other people want to get credibility. Others want to use it as lead magnets. And so that changed my perspective immediately to, I want to gain authority, and I want to use my books to create leads. So you can find most of my books free on my website. You download them free of charge, but you leave me your email address. So if you download So You're Engaged, Now What? I know you're engaged and you may need a minister for your wedding and some marriage coaching. If you download So Now You're Married, Now What? Then I know you're married and you may need some marriage coaching or counseling. You're 10 years in fighting with your husband or your wife. Then relationship mastery is around actually body language, but also very specifically face pattern recognition.
Mhm.
And it's a book on rapport, how to get into rapport with just about anyone. Then, of course,
Well,
as you
well,
know,
well. There you go. That's a mouthful. I mean, one, two, three. I mean, that's like hitting it out of the
Fatom,
park. That's
no,
it. So
Fatom Lach, Fluffy, Fatom
there
Lach.
you go. Absolute. So Stephen, let's look, talk about the first one. So you
Yes.
engage. You know, what was the purpose of the book? Was that literally just to reach people who are engaged and are planning to get married? Was that the purpose of the book?
100%. I am a non-denominational, interdenominational, interfaith minister, marriage officer. So at that stage, I was performing wedding ceremonies, and I still am. And what I wanted to do was create some credibility. Oh, he's written a book, so he must be an authority, right? And
Okay.
also to use it to sell and make a little bit of money at expos, but also use it very cleverly on my website. As I said, you go to my website, download it, I get your email address, and then I can email you. You go into my database, and I can email you offers about my wedding packages.
Okay.
However, this book really is the journey from engaged to married. So it's really what I take my couples through when I meet them for the first meeting to see if they want to use me. So there's a lot of info there on how to choose the right minister, the right DJ, the right photographer, the right videographer, what to ask, legal aspects, et cetera, et cetera. And also like budgets and what to budget for, et cetera. It's actually pretty cool. And people actually who have read it have told me that firstly, they tell me I'm funny, and so I have to accept that. But there's basically 33 chapters in this. Oh, yes, wedding ceremonies, wedding poems, wedding prayers, opening prayers, closing prayers, candle ceremonies, sand ceremonies, hand binding ceremonies. It really is. It's a fabulous book.
So would it be fair to say it actually is a little toolbox of getting you from you're engaged, you want to get married, and what are the considerations? What
yes, wedding planning.
wedding planning is really wedding planning in a toolbox. That's what it is.
Yes,
Now,
100%.
if you talk about the 33 chapters, if you had to highlight 5 of them that are mostly discussed and people pull apart, help me understand, because obviously now, and I know who your target audience is, but I want to know what is the impact that you desire with this book. So obviously the couple are sitting in front of you, there's 33 chapters, and they all get stuck with, I'm sure they don't talk to you about the budget because they know it's going to have to cost them. The only budget part is how much are you going to cost us? And you get that out of the way. I'm sure you get that out of the way. What are the
100%.
top 5 things that they actually normally come with that they discuss with you that you realize it's good? Are you sort of call it a facilitator of the process for a referee in the middle of a match? You know, they both got their boxing gloves on, they're ready to go to get married, and you say, "Hold on, you stay in your corner, you stay in your corner. Let's talk about this. Talk to me."
Well, interestingly enough, that's not in this book. The question I ask every single couple is the following. It's a beautiful question. I'm sure you're going to love this. Doc, what do you believe happens when we die? Nothing. You don't know. Heaven or hell, reincarnation. I know yours, heaven and hell, right?
Absolutely,
So heaven,
but
heaven for
I'll
you.
be honest with you. I'm absolutely taken away because you're talking about so you engage, but you say that's where you start.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because if I'm going to do your wedding ceremony, I need to know where you are spiritually.
Okay.
So when you answer that question, if you go, oh, I don't know, you're agnostic. If you go, nothing, you're atheist. If you go heaven and hell, you're Christian. If you go reincarnation, you're more spiritualist. So then that starts a whole lack of discussion with me and the couple, which is always fabulous. And you know, if they are extremely outside of what I do, I refer someone else. But
Okay.
I am a bit of a chameleon. Because I'm universalist, but usually for your edification, there's one believer and one maybe not. There's always a believer in that
Okay.
meeting.
But that's
So
very
very
interesting
interesting.
because I never would have thought that is the angle to commence the journey. But
Yeah.
now I see it's actually quite clever. Now
Yes.
don't get all puffed up there that I think you're quite
Oh,
clever, but it
let
is
me pat
good.
myself on the head there.
But the fact is, it's a very good. It's like take a dipstick reading
An
of your card. You see
icebreaker.
this? Yeah, it's a nice icebreaker, again, and then get to talk. And
Yes.
then surely, then you know who's sitting in front of you, and then you guide accordingly. All right. So
Yes.
now
And
you sort
also
of have a feel.
I can then create, I can then get in rapport, right?
Okay.
So I can then, that's this one, right? So I can then say, if people go, we believe it's not church going, then I'll go, I believe a wedding ceremony should be a happy, joyous occasion spent with the people that you love,
Mm,
serious for the vows, a Christian construct, but not too much brimstone and fire and Bible bashing. Oh,
fantastic.
we love you. Yeah. And then
Huh,
if they go, oh, no, we're very religious. I go, oh, I've got lovely Bible readings. It should be a spiritual thing. We should have God present, blessing your marriage. So we get into rapport with them.
fantastic. Now I
Rapport is
have
a
to agree with you.
fabulous subject.
I
We
think
should talk about rapport on one whole thing because it's a fabulous subject.
because people don't just think of themselves on their day. Actually, I think by the time they actually reach something like you'd say, please, we're engaged. So what now? And we want to get married. They're thinking in terms of who's going to be there, and they actually want that day to be successful. So they actually have a little bit of reverse engineering. They're looking at who they're going to invite, how many people they're going to be, and they sort of get a feel of, okay, this is the wedding ceremony. So that's why this discussion um, sort of evolves around it. But more importantly
Yes.
is, are they prepared to get married? Now, yeah, they're sitting in front of you. How soon do you know? Oh, are you guys really ready? Or, hey, you guys are definitely ready. Take me through that because certainly if you look at 33 chapters, look at 2 or 3 of those topics and tell me which of those bring out good discussions, good
Yeah.
understanding.
So, I don't necessarily go chapter by chapter. I manage what happens in the room on the day. So, what actually quite often comes up is I don't want to invite Johnny, or I don't want to invite Mary, or or my mother-in-law wants to be a bridesmaid as well. Or things like that come up, or my husband, my fiance's daughter, if it's a second marriage, doesn't like me. Things like that come up quite often. Also, in terms of budget, I mean,
Mm,
if you budget 100,000 for a wedding, it's going to cost you 150. It costs 50 to 100 times more than you expect, just because so many lacquer things come up, and
mm.
etc. etc. But generally at this stage, there's very little arguing, and that is because the honest truth is, I defer to the bride. It's the bride's day more than the groom's day. She's been usually thinking about this for decades, since she was a teenager. And so if she wants XYZ and the husband wants ABC, you and I know we're going to get XYZ, right? So,
Correct.
there's very seldomly any real issues. One of the big things that comes up is like the bride will go, all he had to do was find the minister, and he couldn't even do that.
Which is true, because they're so focused on all the other aspects in terms of how much it's going to cost. Is there going to be booze, no booze? How big is it going to be? How many people? Because I can tell you one thing: what often happens, people start off by saying, we can have a small, quiet wedding. I've seen this
Mm,
over and over. Yeah, 10 to
mm,
15 people, and the next time they wipe the tears out of their eyes, you're looking at 100 people, and the budget just goes boom.
yeah.
In
100
fact,
people at a reasonable place is a 200,000 rand wedding.
yeah, and that is
Yeah.
crazy. And then what happens is those people actually pay off the debt of just having get married for the next 3 to 5 years, which I think is ludicrous. I think if you
Yes.
have to go and borrow money to get married and pay it off
Yeah.
for the next 3 to 5 years, I think that is silly. I'd rather take the money and go and say, go on a honeymoon, spoil yourself. It's not about those people. They're not going to be part of your lives. I mean, yeah, people think they invite these people to the wedding, but they need to ask, who has been part of my life up to now?
Yeah.
Uh, and it's true, because life is so busy. We don't have those people in our pockets every day.
Yeah. And then the advice, if people go, we've got 120 and we only can afford 100, what do we do? I go, the first thing you do is you look at all of those people and you go, who phoned me on my birthday?
Aha, now we're talking.
Versus who said happy birthday on Facebook?
But you see, that's not dipping into the third bit that you had, relationship mastery, because without this, now you engaged, and we know the next step was, now you're married, and then relationship mastery. I can see why you held up all three, because it's like
Yes.
you cannot sort of punt the one without the other, because they sort of intertwine and they form uh, a nucleus in terms of how do you get life to work. So
Yeah.
that's a nice one. We'll ask you to speak to somebody. Do you speak to them on their birthday? Have they spoken to you on your birthday? And in that way, are these just visitors, passengers, or are these really people who have been part of my life? I think
Yeah.
that point
Yeah.
is,
The next one also is, who have you met live in the last year, like face to face? Who's come
Mhm.
to a party, come to a birthday, come to Christmas, whatever? Who's who, and then you start to filter out those extra 20, which is pretty cool. The other thing that comes up quite often, and it's quite sad, is sometimes the bride has got divorced parents and remarried parents, and then she's got two fathers,
Mhm.
a real father and a stepfather, and she goes, my real father was an AH,
Mhm.
and I'd rather have my stepfather. How do I deal with that? And then we go, it's your day.
Absolutely.
Dr. Demartini has a beautiful saying. It says, actually, I think he created the law himself. It's called the law of the lesser persons. And basically, it is, if you've got the option to piss someone else off or yourself off, piss someone else off. And so I say
Absolutely.
to her, if you're walking down the aisle annoyed because the wrong person's walking you down, you're annoyed.
Yeah.
If you tell him, you're not walking me down the aisle, stepdad, he's annoyed. Rather let him be annoyed. So it's actually quite cool advice in all areas of life. If you can choose for someone else or for yourself, let them
Excellent.
be annoyed.
And obviously, you can only give the advice, but whether the to be groom, the two of them, they have to sort out in the end and find agreement. That agreement is not
Right.
up to you to enforce. You can guide, you can facilitate, but they still
Yeah.
have to go make the final decisions to themselves, because that now leads you to the next stage. Let's go to the now. Okay, now you've been engaged. Now you get, so you married. Now what? Now how's this different from the book that you had with 33 chapters to prepare them for marriage. What happens now?
So this actually, it was also incredibly simple. I'm just checking in here. So yeah, this is incredibly simple.
Read out some of the
It's my
chapters. Read out some of those chapters. I want to hear what it's got. Come on.
so hold on a sec. So here we go. So this is actually my 10-hour course, my
Okay.
10-hour marriage course. All I did was I took that. It was in a workbook form, and I turned it into a book. This thing I wrote in like 2 weeks, right? Because I was just changing fonts and stuff. So there's back to basics about relationships, key to long-lasting relationships, communication, money, sex, and power. Those are 3 drives that interweave in a marriage. The meaning of life and our marriage fits into that. Long-lasting and fulfilling relationship is a choice. A tale of 3 couples. I just had some fun. 7-year itch, depression, unrealistic expectations, closing thoughts in some ways, 10 life imperatives, note to potential parents of a teenager. What I did here was I actually got other people to write chapters like I have always. And I've got some teenagers to write chapters about parents, etc., etc. But this, once again, is actually a set of exercises that I take my couples through in marriage coaching.
So it's actually a practical instruction book. This is more like, yes,
just like this one.
Yes, the instructions, and then go through it together. Oh, I think that's that's very clever.
And actually, there you go. You see, so it actually goes, first thing you need to do is tell your spouse, if you're reading this, tell your spouse that we've got some work to do. So it's a workbook. There are pages and spaces in each. So you do an exercise, learn about yourself, share, learn about yourself, share, learn about yourself, share. So 5 languages of love, 5 love languages, apology language, visual, auditory, kinesthetic modes, etc., etc.
Well, the one thing that's universal is they actually asked a lot of couples. I was at one seminar. They said, "What's the number one reason for people getting divorced?" And people came up with number one, money is an issue. They fight about money. Then obviously the guys go, no. There's no agreement on sex, and sex is a problem in the marriage. But you not believe it. What is the universal number one problem? They do not have joint goals, because they never went through what do you expect out of marriage, what is marriage, and then what is our joint goal. Because if they can collectively have a commission in terms of being on mission for themselves as a married couple, well, I mean, it starts with, what is your vision statement for your marriage?
For the marriage, 100%.
What is your mission 100%. Statement? What do you, the vision is, what do you see? What does it look like? The mission is, what do you do? And I can tell you one thing: the fact that they are not on the same journey with collective goals is the number one reason globally for people getting divorced. Crazy.
There you Creating a shared vision.
That's it. There's the answer.
So now here we have family, financial, vocation, and then here we have where do you want to be 2 years from now? Where do you want to be 5 years from now in all 7 areas? Where do you want to be 10 years from now in all 7 areas of life? And where do you want to be 10 years from now? And where do you want to be 50 years from now? So 50 years from now, you set goals now for every area of your life. It's quite cool. It's a beautiful exercise.
Fantastic. So what you do is,
social,
they do it
family.
They do it separate first. Then you bring them together, and then they collectively explain, this is what I meant, this is what I meant, and then they find a shared vision or shared goal setting.
And then they write it down. And I don't know if I've got it in here, if I can find it again. And then when I do it live with them, I actually get them to sign it, and I witness it.
Fantastic. That's good.
To really commit to these. And of course, 50-year goals change, but it's better to have a 50-year goal for your marriage than not.
Fantastic.
In fact, I can show you, I've got a PowerPoint presentation with a lot of my goals on, and if I've opened it now, you'll see the first one is happy 50th wedding anniversary, Jackie and Steve.
Okay.
We're on 32 now, 18 to go.
So you've projected already, and this is what you're working towards, so people can actually say that. I mean, let's face it, now when you get to 50 years, I don't know who gets the medal. I suppose the women get it.
She gets
Because
she gets the gold, I get the bronze.
yeah, she gets the gold, you get the bronze. Because obviously, when it comes to
100%.
working on the marriage, it's subliminal. And because when you ask the question, well, who works at it? Well, you're supposed to both work at it, but you don't know you have to work at it. Sometimes people get the point where only when there's a problem, now they want to start working. But the thing is, if you can pre-work, like you said, where are your next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, now work towards a collective goal, it changes the story. It changes.
100%.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
100%.
now what is clear to me is, Stephen, so you started with, so you are engaged, what now? Then you moved to, so you married, what now? And I love the fact that it was exercise driven. And you also said, I like the stories from children in terms of their expectations, some advice of parenting, etc. But the third book, Relationship Mastery, clearly to me is the glue. That's the one that keeps everything together. Isn't that true?
Mm.
So when we say that, what of relationship mastery is different to what you had in book 1 and 2? Highlight
Uh,
maybe again,
yeah.
I say look at the index of the books and just tell me what
No,
stands out.
this one's very different. This one is actually kind of aimed more into a corporate way, but it works everywhere. So
Mhm.
this is about dress for success. This is about having manners. This is
Okay.
about not being overly flirty. This is about and then face pattern recognition. So you can look at somebody's face, and certain of their facial traits will correlate into personal traits. So
Okay.
like you can look at somebody and you can know whether they're focused or more big picture, whether they are, they like to communicate and collaborate, or if they're fiercely independent, whether they use lots of words with emotion or not.
Mm.
And so you can start to change your way of interacting with them so that you're in their mode as opposed to
So
being
also
in
you're talking about
your
left
mode.
brain, right brain. I mean, come on, the one is actually practical and to the point, and the right brain, woo, all over there, all creative, and to land those two and to make them merge, it's not that easy.
Yes.
I can
And
actually
so,
sense, I know your friendship with Dr. John DeMartini clearly coming
mm,
through because the two of you have been friends for years and you speak together. And obviously, it's about that mindset in terms of making relationships work, but taking those differences, taking the nuances and finding ways to make them work, practical ways to make them work. Is that right?
yeah. So, for example, when I look at you, and I've just changed my screen so I can see you properly.
Mm-hmm.
When I look at you, and I won't give you the trait, but I imagine you quite analytical. You've got, these eyelids here. They like, yeah, where girls put the makeup.
Yeah.
When I look at you, you don't have that. It comes over, which
Mm-hmm.
shows that you're quite analytical. And also,
Mm-hmm.
when I look, your ears are a little bit flared, which shows assertiveness. And your eyebrows are quite high, which
Yeah.
shows a little bit of, impersonal, like you're, you, mm, you actually, I know you say, as I say this, it's weird, but like people have to earn the right to get into your
Correct.
aura. You're a little bit
But
more.
now I want to know is if the next move will change. You spit in your fingers, you
Yeah,
you move those
yeah, yeah, yeah,
eyebrows. Will that make a
yeah. They
difference, or is that just make
no,
believe?
no. But it'll say a lot about you.
Very
Yeah,
interesting, very interesting. But
yeah,
that's what it's about. Because everybody is unique. I've never seen that people are the same. Because I know what's boring is the person that's the same every day, the whole thing. I mean, like with you, knowing you quite well, I never know what's coming out of your mouth next.
yes,
It's one of those things that actually makes our friendship work. And now
yeah.
take that to relationship mastery. But what about the person that flies off the handle all the time? And it actually is a bit of a surprise over and over for the partner. That's not always friendly territory, right?
Yeah, and that's, so sometimes that's when we have to remember our vows, for better or worse, and just
Mm-hmm.
go, okay, so this is the worst. Also, I did a course very interestingly with Robin Banks recently, and he said, you know, if you're in a difficult relationship, you've really got two choices: leave or stay and suck it up.
Yeah.
So, and even in one of my wedding ceremonies, I say, you know, there'll be times when you want to do things together. There'll be times when you want to do your own thing. And there'll be times when you have to do some stuff you don't really feel like.
Correct.
And sometimes in relationships, like to me, there's no relationship that's 100% perfect, 100% happy. And they're always happy. They always want to eat the same food. They want to go to the same movies. They're horny at the same time. It doesn't happen, right? So, and I think there's a bit of toxic in every relationship.
Yeah.
And so what has to happen is the balance needs to be, it's more nice than horrible.
Yeah.
And when it becomes too horrible, one of you leaves. That's what happens. You spoke about divorce earlier, and in my opinion, actually, what happens is it's a time-based thing very often, and it's little pockets of resentment that build and build and build and build. And if you don't have a healthy way of releasing that steam, then it blows up. So to me, the cancer of relationships is little pockets of resentment,
Yep.
until you feel like you're down in and you move on.
Well, it's easy as that, you know, when she does not feel loved anymore, there's a problem. When he doesn't feel respected anymore, there's a problem. But it's that constant working on keeping the flame of love alive, and also making sure that honoring and respect is there at all times. Because, man, I'm yet to find a guy that doesn't want to be the man. And that's part of relationship mastery, and that is working. It's a continuous working at making it work.
Yes.
And it's also, it's not a tonic you just swallow. It's something that you work at. You know, somebody once asked me, well, can you please spell marriage? And I started with M-A-R, and went, no. Already you're wrong. I said, what do you mean? I can spell. No, you spell it W-O-R-K, work. I've never forgotten that. I've never forgotten that example in terms of it takes work at all times. So, but I like the fact that if I look at your title, Stephen, yes, for me, the word relationship stands out. But the truth is, the underlying success lies in the word mastery. And that is, what do you need to do, redo, keep on doing, so that you can master the skill, so that your relationship does not fall apart, right? Now, you as a karate guy, you understand there is discipline. And that is that you want to do things over and over and over to create that discipline, so that when you need to act and move, it's a natural movement, because you know how to control it, but you've done it over and over again. And I think when it comes to mastery, that's one of the things that people don't know. They think you just jump into it, and because, I always say is, did you marry for love or did you marry for lust? Lust, with all due respect, will last for a short while. But boy, when things go bad, you need to say to yourself, well, did you marry for love? Because what is love really? Well, that's choosing to love, even when you don't feel like it. That's a tough one.
It's kind of, I always love you, but I don't always like you.
Yeah, that's true. And it's okay. You have to be able to be real and say, I love you, but right now I don't like you. That's okay.
Very much. 100%.
That's fine.
So Doc, one of the things I'll just show you is, like, this book has got some really cool illustrations. So this one is actually showing eyes wider from and eyes closer. So eyes closer to the nose show more focused. Eyes wider show more big picture. Now, when I look at yours, you're actually a hybrid. I think you're quite broad in one area, maybe your work, and then quite focused in another, or focused in the work and broad maybe at home. So, but we won't go into that too much. But what's nice about this book is there's a nice little thing, once again, where you can do some work. I don't know.
Again, the workshopping in the book. I like that. I like the practical side.
Yes, and now listen to this. Important person's name, Jackie. Relationship, wife. Right. Major pattern 1, major pattern 2, major pattern 3, major pattern 4, major pattern 5. So my strategy with dealing with them. So in the example, eyes close to the nose, focus. So I will give them facts and not waffle. And then you can go wife, husband, child, best friend, all the important, your top 10 people, right? You can analyze and go, when I speak to Doc, I must remember He's a little bit more informal or whatever. So it's actually a nice little manual for all of the important people.
Very interesting. Well, Stephen, as we start obviously now landing this plane, I said leaders are readers, so they haven't got your book, they haven't acquired your book. So obviously we would like them to read, because I believe that leaders who read equip themselves to the next level. So in terms of me just providing them with your email address, that will get them to literally be able to contact you. Do you have a website where things are available? Just talk to us. How do people contact you? How do they get hold of your books? How do we take this forward?
Very simple, www.stephenvanbasten.co.za. On there will be an author tab, and all of the info is on the author tab.
Is that Stephen a PH or a V?
PHSTEPHENVANBASTEN.
There you go. Yeah, that's very important, because I can tell you, most people, when they think of Stephen in South Africa, they go with a V, but it's PH, obviously. Oh, you've got your PH, Stephen. Not bad.
I've got
Not
a
bad.
PH. I just need the D now. I've got a PH in D, but let's not go there.
Oh, well, it's been absolutely phenomenal to speak to you again. I really believe that it's been just summarized. What is your final message when you take about couples who are engaged to be married, those who've just got married, those who've been married for years, and then obviously the relationship aspect that just circumvents all of this? What's your final message to those listening to today's broadcast?
My final message is download the book that I've never published, and that is So You're Alive Now What? And that's just a philosophical book about life. Why are we here? The meaning of life. What happens when we die? Very, very cool stuff as well. And it's really, in my opinion, when I look at some of the people I revere, they arrived as a human and left as a master. It's like, they grew and they became something. So it's kind of become more. It's keep learning, keep going, stay on the path, keep working things out, keep asking your beautiful brain important questions, because it just has a way of bringing you answers. I believe that every single question you ever ask your brain, it will answer in some way or other over some period of time.
Well, we know why. It's called the Zeigarnik effect, because the brain wants to loop things and wants to close that loop. So with that last thought, I'm going to say this, Stephen Stuff, you've got the books, So You Are Engaged, What Now? So You Are Married, What Now? Relationship Mastery. And if you just want your brain to say, I want to close the loop, well, the easiest is contact the guy, get hold of his website, get hold of the books, and add value to your life. All I can say to you is, it's not just a read. It's exercises to be done, and that is taking accountability, pen to paper, committing what you think, discussing it with your partner, and that way, taking your relationship to the next level. So from me to you, thank you, Stephen. Thank you so much for today. Highly appreciate it.
You are most welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.